Welcome to Red Reviews, The Fate of the Furious. I think we all feel kind of the same way about the Fate of the Furious franchise. One was a big success at the time. Two and three, maybe not so much. But once they really brought the franchise back with the fourth one, and I'm just going to stick to numbers, I'm going to start to lose track of the titles after a while because they try and combine fast and the word furious so many different ways that it gets convoluted. So let's just stick to numbers. The fourth one started to bring us into this the new world of what we'd see the Fast and Furious franchise being. Then we had Fast Five, which I still think might be the best one, where we kind of get the heist world that we're going to kind of go with for the rest of the franchise. Sort of continues into this one, but like I said, I think Fast Five is probably the best one. So that being said, I don't think Fate of the Furious is the best one in the series. It's not the worst one in the series. It's probably like a mediocre one in the series, if we're going to be honest. There's a lot happening in this movie. 2 hours and 16-minute runtime. Didn't need to be that long. I don't think so. Right off the bat, probably in the first 20 minutes, I'm like, probably that scene and that scene. They gave me some chuckles every brief second or so. But at the same time, I'm like, I could have trimmed that up. I could have taken that part out. Could have condensed that a little bit more. So it's like they shot all this footage, and I was like, well, we should probably use that footage. And so you also have the ramping up, which is where you slow down the footage when you have a really cool action shot. So that also adds to the runtime a little bit. Even though it's cool to see something in slow motion, when you do it for like the 15th time, you're like, all right, I get it. Let's go. For a movie that's supposed to be about going fast, let's go. When the cars are in motion, that's fun, to a point. When the dialogue is going on, you just want to get to more of the cars. Charlize Theron plays the villain in this movie who sort of recruits Dom or tricks Dom or persuades Dom, however you want to look at it, to working for her to go against his team to carry out these random tasks that she has. And I really couldn't even explain the plot to you. I don't know what she's after. She's after power, I guess. So she needs this device so she can do this so then they can build on this. Her name is Cypher. Because she's a hacker. Because that's what this franchise has never been good about being subtle. So what is one of her henchmen's name? Well, he's one of the drivers, so we should probably name him Rhodes. So you can see that's the subtlety of the Fast and Furious franchise. But I don't really know what her plot is, what her end game is. Maybe we're not supposed to know. Maybe we'll figure out in the next one, or one of the other 12 that we'll do after this. What this movie, I think, suffers from the most is Spectre syndrome. And what Spectre syndrome is James Bond movies have always stood on their own until we got sort of along the lines of Spectre and the Daniel Craig ones, where what Spectre tried to do was try to tie Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, and Skyfall all together in a way that I don't think they were meant to at the time, where Silva worked for Spectre and Quantum was part of Spectre, and so it all culminated with Spectre, the movie, but it wasn't built that way, and we're sort of getting it that with this one, where we get the Shaw brothers to come back. So we get Jason Statham and his brother, one of the Shaws. One of them name's Decker, and I can't remember the other one's name. But they used to work for Cypher, or Cypher approached them to do a job. And so the Nightshade thing that they stole in one of the movies, Cypher, Charlize Theron's character, was trying to steal that. God's Eye from the last one, Cypher was trying to steal that. So she'd hired all these people, like the Warlord from the last one. He was actually working for Cypher. All this stuff that we didn't know, so you could say that in the last 2 or 3 movies, I can't remember how far it really stretches back, that Cypher has been the overall villain behind the scenes, much like Blofeld and Spectre, although we didn't know it. So in that, it tries to culminate everything in a way it wasn't supposed to culminate, and we're supposed to be like, oh no, this is the big villain, this is the big baddie, that we didn't know was there the whole time, so I don't understand what that big payoff is. Also, other than Spectre syndrome, with this, we're almost there. I think we may cross the line a few times into Transformers syndrome, where that is, I love action. I love Fast Five, dragging the safe down the street, causing a whole bunch of chaos. I love mindless action, but to a point, and anyone who's seen enough Transformers knows that there's a point where, I don't know what I'm watching, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be caring about. There's so much happening. There's this car smashing into that car, and this is exploding, and then we cut to a fight scene over here, and then this character's doing this, and then there's a submarine that comes up, and then The Rock is guiding that missile. No spoilers, you see all this in the trailer, but when you're watching the action scene, you're just in awe because you're not sure. At one point you're like, what? I don't understand. Nothing more can amaze me at this point. It's just literally washing over me, like the Transformers movies. Like if I see one more explosion, I love explosions, but when you're on your 40th one, you're like, okay. I don't understand how we got from street racing and heist movies to this. And we've been building to this. This has been a problem I've had with the last couple ones. I like dragging the vault down the street, even as ridiculous as it is. And I think in the next one, in that where they had the longest runway in the history of runways, where they bring down the plane, and that's where the subtlety just went out the window. Like this is just mindless action. But there's a point where you cross a line in mindless action to just my brain it checks out. It checks out, and that's about the time I think this, maybe even a little bit before the submarine comes up out of the ocean, where Cypher's hacking the submarine, and she hacks everything in this movie. You see in the trailer the wave of cars. She hacks every car in like New York. Not every car has a microchip in it, and cars can't drive themselves. There may be some, I don't know. I'm sure you could say in the comment section, you're completely wrong. There's a car that drives itself. But not every. There are cabs that are going down the street that she's controlling. I'm sure that's not in cabs. It's not in my car. I'm pretty sure my car can't drive itself. I've never read the owner's manual, so maybe it does have some features. It is about 10 years old, so I like to think that there's nothing in the car that would make it drive itself. But since she hacks into the submarine, and she's controlling the submarine, there's no one in that submarine. I have to feel like there would have to be somebody in the submarine. They wouldn't allow the submarine to be controlled completely remotely, including nuclear missiles that are on the submarine. So yeah, so there's nuclear missiles on the submarine. That's like by the end of the movie, you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's happening, and you don't know who you don't care about anything because they're all main characters, and you're not going to kill anyone because you want to make Fast 35. You want that whole cast to be in there, so you know there's nothing at stake, and there's just mindless action throughout. Now the big thing in the trailer was, Toretto's gone bad. But you could probably guess that he isn't bad. There's something pulling the strings. There's a reason he's doing what he's doing. I've heard the internet fan theory that maybe he had Brian captured, and that's what I was going with. And for about half the movie, I was like, oh, that's where Brian is. That's where they're going to explain Brian away, is maybe Cypher has kidnapped him, and that's why he's doing all this. But it's not why he's doing all this. I'll get to that at the end of the video. I'll do a 3, 4, 1 spoiler alert countdown, so not to ruin anything. But that is basically the Fate of the Furious. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot. For 2 hours and 16 minutes, it doesn't need to be that long. There's a lot of action that, to the point, washes over you. You don't believe that Dom's gone bad. There's some. I spent a lot of time mostly just shaking my head. I don't enjoy this one as much as I have some of the other ones. I'm not sure where the franchise will go from here. I hope they bring it back on track. You can downscale things a little bit and still have a good time. Some of the characters I really enjoy, and some of the other ones start to get on my nerves. Really, the movie I wanted out of all this, surprisingly, was the Jason Statham, The Rock relationship. I would watch a buddy movie with just those two characters. And this really almost became The Rock's movie at one point, where Toretto goes off on his own, and maybe that's where the movie suffers, is Toretto's not with his team. And you really go into these movies to see the team, especially with the heist aspect, is see them work together to how they're going to figure this out, how they're going to overcome this, how they're going to conduct this heist. But when you rip the team apart and you have Toretto over here and they have the rest of the team functioning without him, you start to lose something, and I will say that you do lose something without Paul Walker there. Also, one other nitpick I have is Toretto, Vin Diesel, he's one man. The other team, like 10 people. They can't take him out. I get he's the best. But at a point, the numbers have to beat the experience of the other ones. So he's the greatest driver in the world. But when you have 10 of the second best drivers, I feel like they have to be able. There has to be a point where they can take him. And some of the physics in this movie, I know I'm complaining about physics in a Fast and Furious movie, but the physics, they don't make any sense. All right, spoiler alert in 3, 2, and 1. Why is Dom doing all this? Are you still here? You really want to know? Well, Dom has a son. Has Dom ever had a son? Well, no, just because Dom didn't know he had a son, and that's one of those plot devices that's invented for the sake that we need to propel this story forward. You remember Helena in Fast 5? She's the pretty agent that shows up. The Rock likes her smile. Then she appears, I think, in one other one. But she's sort of Dom's girlfriend while Letty's away until Letty comes back, and then Dom goes back with Letty. Well, apparently in that brief period when Letty was gone, while they were dating, well, we know where babies come from, so they did a lot of that. And so she's in this with the kid, but don't get too attached because they shoot her. Cypher kills her. And what are the weirdest decisions? I don't understand why they would do that. This movie gets dark at one point, and that's not what I go into a Fast and Furious movie for, is for darkness. I go in to have a good time, to see mindless cars, mindless action, cars doing fun stuff. I want to see car racing. I like that aspect. I don't just want to see cars out running a submarine at a point where I don't care about anything that's going on. So that's it. He's after his son. That's the big reveal. And of course, the mom doesn't give the son a name because he gives him a middle name, but he wants to let Dom name the baby because it's the proper thing to do, I guess. Seeing it, he didn't know that he had a kid. She didn't look like she was going to tell him until Cypher intervened, so I don't know how long this kid was going to go without a name. But one guess, I'll give you one guess. I guess it's cute. I guess it's clever. I guess it's heartfelt and touching. What's the name? What does he name the baby? Well, of course, he names it Brian. And I understand that's a nice message, but it's just, you saw that coming a mile away. They set it up, they're like, he doesn't have a name. Well, why wouldn't you name your baby? Well, I was like, well, you know they're going to name it Brian by the end. So technically, I guess we do have a Brian back in the franchise. It'll be a little while before he gets his learner's permit, so I'm sure we'll get that in 10 Fast and Furious movies down the line. So that's my review of the Fast and the Furious. What's your favorite one in the series? Go ahead, comment below. Tell me what your favorite one is. Tell me what your favorite car movie is if it's not Fast and Furious. And how would I rate this movie? It's a lot of furious, but it needs more fast. It's too furious. It's almost, it's the Fate of the Furious is too furious. So I hope this isn't what I want for the Fate of the Furious in the aspect of where they're going to go, the actual fate of the franchise now. I hope that they kind of bring it back on the rails. Bring it down more, a smaller scale story. You don't have to tell these grandiose, grand scales. You don't have to tell like Avengers level stories every time. You can tell these smaller, maybe Winter Soldier type stories. You don't have to go grand all the time. You can condense it down, tell a smaller story, and that may be where the direction should go, is focus on these smaller stories. Focus on the bank heist in Rio. Don't focus on saving the world, because that's what real government agencies are for, not these outlaws. So that's the Fate of the Furious. I'll catch you guys next time right here on Red Reviews.